Hey there, Erika Cole, the church attorney here. So I've gotten so many questions around what churches and nonprofits need to know as we are experiencing a change in the administration here in the US. And so I'm going to take a few minutes, walk through about 5 reasons why churches and nonprofits need to pay attention under the new administration and maybe some adjustments that you want to consider making as we move forward. So here's the first one. Shifts in tax policy. We're not completely sure, and I'm just going to say this as a broad overall statement here, what the changes will look like, but there have already been, as we know, a number of executive orders signed, and so there are some pretty good indicators of things to come. So possible changes or shifts in tax policy, changes in charitable tax deductions, that may have an impact on donor behavior. A lot of nonprofits are considering that and seeing and taking some real overview of what that may mean for their operations. Also, potential changes to nonprofit status requirements. Again, I'm keeping a close eye on this. So I would just say for those of you who have been considering applying for tax exempt status, or you've been considering maybe changing your status designation, right? There are a number of organizations that want to shift to being reflected as a church specifically for their operations. Don't waste time. Like, don't hesitate. If you've already made the analysis and you've determined that this is right for you, I would say this is not the time to hesitate, right? Make the change now if you expect and anticipate that this is something that's going to be beneficial to your organization, because we're just not sure how long the existing protocols are going to be in place. Second thing I want to mention is regulatory reforms that may be affecting nonprofits. So new compliance rules for reporting, perhaps matters related to increased scrutiny for audits. This is something that I've been sharing, but as we are observing the new administration and changes, also just changes in staffing and what that may mean for operations and the deep bench sometimes that is necessary for efficient operations. So we're keeping an eye on that. And then the third thing I want to mention is just the evolving social policies and their implications. So changes in federal funding and allocations for nonprofits. We saw something, I want to say just yesterday, about cutting grants and just stopping contributions, federal support of certain grants. So again, if you've been relying on federal funding, I really would encourage you as a nonprofit and even as churches, right? There's some churches that their operations, like after school programs and other things, have relied on federal funding. This is the time to really examine your sources of revenue and consider if you need to make any adjustments. Fourth thing I want to mention is actually something that we're covering today inside the Faithful Foundation's membership. So if you're in the membership, you'll get the benefit of hearing this. If you're not, you may want to go ahead and sign up. I definitely encourage it. I'll plan to have the links below. But we're talking about impacts of minimum wage and employee classification changes, and potentially the eroding of, if not elimination of, the EEOC. That's a big move, and it's something that you definitely want to take into account as a nonprofit. Again, we have an employment law specialist who's joining us inside Faithful Foundation's membership today. And so all the members get a chance to all the members who are part of the All Access get a chance to be in this live Q&A and ask their questions. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is this issue of employment matters and employee classification or worker classification, and under the new administration, what these things may mean. Final thing I want to mention is shift in public perception and community expectations. So the need for churches and nonprofits to address emerging social priorities and the increased pressure to demonstrate really measurable activity. So I would say it in this way. Churches and nonprofits are needed more today than ever. And I think that it may be really your prime time to stand strong, in spite of the fact that there may be some challenges ahead. So if you're in the membership, we'll continue to talk about these things, and I hope that you will join us there. Otherwise, I'll be sharing as much as I can over these days through my podcast and on social media. Blessings to you. Bye.